From Grappling Insider. Today I am joined by one of the UK's top black belt competitors. He recently made it to the finals of the Polaris Middleweight Grand Prix. Jed Hue, thanks for having me, or thanks for joining me today, Jed. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. However, I like that I can make you thank me for having you on the show.
Of course, of course, of course.
So anyway, thanks again for giving me some of your time. I want to start off because we've never spoken before. Before we get into all the things you've been doing in competition over the past like year and a half, just talk to me about like generally how you got started in jiu-jitsu. Like if somebody came up to you on the street and they said, "How did you get to where you are today?" Let me know like what has been your origin story, what has been your journey in jiu-jitsu?
So I started jiu-jitsu at 16 years old. So my first goal in life wasn't to do jiu-jitsu. I wanted to be a football player, so soccer for you guys, but like English football. And I said to myself, if I don't make football by 16, I'm going to turn to fighting, because from a young age, I enjoyed fighting. And my dad's a boxing manager, and he was also an amateur kickboxer as well. So from a young age, I knew striking. So because of liking striking and knowing that, I used to always fight. And I was always pretty good at it. Like I haven't really actually lost a fight on the street before, like coming up as a kid. So I was like, football is my main passion, but I like fighting as well. So I'm going to try to pursue football first. And I was like to myself, if it doesn't work out by 16, I'm going to pursue fighting instead and try to go into the UFC. So I already had a background in striking. So I thought, you know what, like I can strike already. What I need to do now is do some sort of grappling to help me be able to grapple in the cage, right? So then I was looking at like jiu-jitsu. I looked at judo, I looked at wrestling. I liked all of them, but jiu-jitsu stuck with me for one simple reason: the finish. Like I like wrestling and judo because you take the guy down, but once you take him down, you don't really do much more after that. Jiu-jitsu was more control-based and submission-based, and I preferred the fact that I don't just take you down, but I finish you. So yeah, I started at 16. I trained till I was 19. Got my blue at 17 and purple at 19. And then unfortunately I got injured. And I took off about 2.5 years. I then came back at 21. And that's when things really started to work out for me. Like I wasn't very successful at first. Like 16 to 19, like I did okay, but I would lose a lot. Only 21 till now, 25, as I really started to kind of find success. Obviously, like I'm still losing now and again, but like I'm only losing to the best guys in the world at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got started in.
Yeah, and you've really, at least from over here in the United States, from my perspective, it's really been the past like year and a half where I feel like you've kind of exploded on the elite no-gi scene. Can you pinpoint any specific matches or tournaments or competitions where it dawned on you like, I'm there, I'm world class right now?
It would be probably Polaris squads,
Mhm.
where I first faced Roberto Jimenez. I had a match with Hunter Colvin. I had a match with Adam Benayoun. So like there's some pretty good names from America. And that was kind of the day where I thought like, today is going to be a real test to see how good my jiu-jitsu actually is against these kind of guys. And all 3 matches ended in a draw. Like I didn't submit any of them and none of them submitted me. So it was only 5-minute matches, so it's pretty short. But it was a good kind of indicator to kind of see where I'm at. And then after that, that's when I started getting bigger international matches. I fought Yuri Simoes, then I fought like Cody Steele, AJ Agazarm, then I fought Roberto again, fought Tarza, Sanchez, Mika. Like I fought some good people now. And yeah, I'd say probably Polaris squads is where I kind of really believe that I was kind of getting to that level. I'm still not quite there yet. I still feel like I've got a long way to go. But yeah, that's kind of when I realized like I'm basically doing the right things and I'm getting there.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys you just named, undeniably best in the world or like at the top of the food chain. Those Polaris events, man, can you talk to me what the squads is like? Because those are wild matches, guys just going crazy for 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah, so the squad format is very, very interesting. Like you have a team with you, there's 8 of you, 4 in the lower weight class under 75 and 4 in the bigger weight class under 95. So it's very, very interesting to see because you have a squad of 8 people in your team, 8 people in the opposite team as well. And you don't know who you're fighting. You can fight someone your size, you can fight someone bigger than you. You don't know until you step onto the mat. And I like that because you don't really prepare for a single person. It's more like you don't know. It's like Russian roulette. You don't know what's going to happen. Like someone just comes through and that's the guy you're fighting. So I like that. I kind of like the fact that it's 5 minutes because you just go, yeah, I'm fine. Sorry. I like the fact that it's 5 minutes because it's not a lot of time to really work your game, but it's such a short time that there's no point of holding back. So for 5 minutes, you might as well just go crazy because you haven't got very, very long to work. So it kind of makes the format very interesting where the time's so short.
And honestly, I feel like your game, being a submission hunter and especially being a leg locker, is pretty well suited to those short matches because you can get a finish really quickly. And I'm curious, like, when did leg locks become kind of a part of your game? Was it always there, or was there a turning point where you realized, oh, I can heel hook people real easy?
I've always had a thing for footlocks. So when I first started jiu-jitsu, the first two submissions I put invested time into was an armbar and a straight footlock. And then I did that until purple belt, and then I got injured. When I got injured, I was just doing gi. Like I didn't even do no gi at all, right? Until purple belt, right? I got injured. I took off 2.5 years from January 2016, and I came back in May 2018. And when I had come back, that's when Nogi really kind of started to kind of take off. It's not obviously where it is now, but that's when the popularity started coming up, right? And at the time, I was training with one of my old coaches, a guy called Ross Nichols. Like he's pretty good as well. Like he's won Europeans, ADCC, not been to the world, so he's pretty good. So when I came back, he was doing basically strictly Nogi, and I was kind of like, it's a bit weird for me, but I wanted to do gi. I didn't want to do no gi. But even when I came back, like when I come back from my injury, I was still one of the best guys in the room as well. So he'd always call me over for rounds, and he would always do no gi. So I'd always just take my gi off and roll with him. And then slowly, I started to enjoy no gi more and more and more. But I was getting heel hooked a lot. Like I didn't understand. Like I would go for straight footlocks and I'd get heel hooked. I was thinking, what the fuck's going on here? Like, and then slowly, he would show me a few things. A few of the other guys would show me things, and slowly, so I started working into heel hooks from there. So it all started with straight footlock first. I always liked a straight footlock. And then as I started transitioning to no gi more than gi, I realized straight footlocks just ain't enough. And then I started doing a lot more toe holds, knee bars, heel hooks, things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I get started in heel hooks.
Awesome. So let's talk about I want to talk about the Polaris Middleweight Grand Prix, your matches, because it happened so recently. And I would say one of the, obviously you didn't get the full result you wanted, but I would say one of your better overall competition performances. So let's go through, like, the first round. You had Alan Sanchez, 10th Planet Black Belt. From our perspective, or from the viewer's perspective, it looked like maybe he was a bit cautious. I'm curious what your thoughts were on that match, and kind of what your game plan was going into that match.
I kind of knew roughly what kind of Sanchez's game would be like. I knew he was quite slow. He wasn't very athletic and strong. And I'm quite fast, aggressive, and relatively strong as well. So I kind of thought where he lacks, I excel. So I kind of thought I could use those things against him. At the same time, I didn't want to overexert myself and put myself in danger, because obviously he's still a very, very dangerous opponent, right? So when it comes to that sort of format where points are included, it's not just submission only. I definitely thought that if I score points on him, or even try to score a point in by wrestle ups or get some sort of sweep, I didn't feel like watching his matches before, like studying him, he doesn't resist too much. Like if you sweep him, he doesn't actually resist to come back on top. So I thought if I can just score some points, I might definitely win. And I just thought stylistically, he was the best matchup for me. That's kind of why I wanted. I didn't know, like, we didn't know who was fighting until the day. But like they would ask me in the interview, like, who would you want to match up with? And I said I would like either Tarza, Sanchez, or Jimenez. That's the guys that I would want first round, right? And luckily I got one of them. And for me, it was kind of lucky because I thought, like, in terms of, I said accidentally in the interview that he was the easiest match. I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was that stylistically, I think he would have been the easiest matchup for me. Not that his jiu-jitsu is no good. His jiu-jitsu is amazing. But I just thought stylistically, he would be the easiest one for me to get through first round. So that's kind of why I was hoping to get him first round, and lucky enough, yeah, I did. But he's a very, 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 very tough opponent, and I'm sure one day we'll run it back again.
And generally, what do you think about the scoring system? Obviously, it's just 1 point for every single move, whereas it's not like IBJJF with 3 points here, 4 points there, 2 points there. What do you think about that 1 point for just for a sweep, for a guard pass, whatever?
I kind of like it because it doesn't matter what kind of position you get, whether it's a sweep, pass, back take, it's all 1 point. So you have to work a little bit harder if you want to score more points on people, right? So you have to work that much harder, right? At the same time, from a defensive point of view, if you're down on points, you get your back taken, you're only 1 point down. If you escape and then sweep them, you're back on equal terms now. So I kind of like that fact. And I also like one of the rules, I don't know if you know this rule as well, like if you're on top, right? And if you jump on a submission attempt and the other guy gets on top, that's not counted as a sweep because you initiated the attack through a submission. If you do that in IBJJF, they will still score sweep points. So me personally, I quite like the GP rule set. Just any Polaris rule set in general. Like I like their super fight rule set as well as their GP rule set. So I kind of like the 1 point scoring system. It works pretty well for me.
Yeah, they're doing something right. And I would imagine for somebody who likes to jump on the legs, that gives you more freedom when you're in top to fall back on and attack the legs.
For sure, for sure.
Hey everyone, just dropping in real quick to say that if you like this video and you'd like to see us produce more content like this, please hit like below and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, check out grapplinginsider.com for your daily jiu-jitsu and submission grappling news, exclusive interviews just like this one, technical analysis, opinion pieces, and so much more about submission grappling. Finally, our main goal here is to grow the support of submission grappling and jiu-jitsu, so please do your part by supporting the athletes. Go to their seminars, buy their instructionals, follow them on social media. And if you like the interview that you are watching right now, please feel free to reach out to that athlete. Let them know you are a fan. Together, we can make jiu-jitsu huge. Thanks. So then second round match, really, really close match with Oliver Taza, and he's super accomplished as well, right? I think a 2-time ADCC trials winner, ADCC vet, obviously. What was your game plan going into this match? Super close for the bulk of it, and then you get that late sweep.
So with Taza, I had to play a little bit more strategic. I knew that Taza would not accept anything. So with Alan Sanchez, I knew that if I swept him, he would kind of accept it a lot easier than Taza would. So I thought I could score a lot more points than Sanchez. With Taza, it was going to be a lot more difficult, right? Going into this tournament, I was very injured as well. So there was a lot of things I couldn't do in my game, right? So because of that, it affected me going for leg locks. I couldn't do a lot of leg locks because of that, right? So with him, my game plan was don't let him pass, retain your guard for around 7, 8, 9 minutes, and try score on him when there's hardly any time left. Because I thought if I score on him near the end, he then can't score that point back. Or if he tries to score the point back, there's not going to be enough time for him to do that. So the game plan against Taza was retain my guard, because I knew he was going to pass me. So retain my guard, try and tire him out as much as possible, so that when I do finally shoot up for my sweep or my wrestler, which is what I got, I thought by the end, if there's last like 1 or 2 minutes, he's not really going to have enough energy to then defend my attempts. And luckily, it went to plan, and it worked.
Yeah, it did. And I do want to talk a little bit about some things that you were doing in that match that I saw. And I know earlier you mentioned like blue, purple belt, you love the armbar and straight ankle lock. Something I saw you doing in that match over and over and over again, I think it was from half guard, where you would reach for like a shoulder crunch or choi bar type of situation. And then when he pulls his arm out, you go to enter into the legs. And I think that's how you got under him for the final sweep. Talk me through kind of, is that like a frequent setup that you use?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the arm saddle. Do you know the arm saddle position?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge fan of the arm saddle. Even though now it's not really a popular move or popular kind of attack, I have been developing my arm saddle since purple belt. So I've been putting a lot of work into the last like 3, maybe 4 years. And it's a position that's very, very, very strong in terms of attacks. I have a lot of options from that. I can take the back, like with Sanchez, I got to arm saddle, took his back. So I can take the back from there, I can sweep from there, I can attack the arm, the neck, or the legs. So I have many, many options from that position, and it's a very, very controlling position. At the same time, it's very, very difficult to defend. So I know that if I get to that position, most times I'm going to submit someone or I'm going to score points. So the goal was to try to get to that position, but I did make a few mistakes there, and I am now working on them now in the gym. So I've made a few mistakes and things I need to work on. But as of this week, actually, for Monday, I started working on them now. So next time you see me compete, it's going to be similar, but I've got a new way of attacking that's going to make my entries into arm saddle easier for me. So the issue is right now is people know my game a lot more, because where I'm kind of gaining a bit more, not popularity, but making a bigger name for myself, more and more people start to study my game. Even when I was talking to Taza during the match. We had a little conversation during the match. And even at one point, he said to me that I've been studying your game, so I know what you're going to do. And I thought, oh, okay, interesting, right? Because I've been studying Taza for years anyway. But it was really cool for him to say that he's been studying me. I thought, oh, okay, I'm getting to that level now where these guys actually have to kind of study me to not get an edge, but kind of know what I'm going to do. So where these guys know what I'm going to do now, I'm now making certain adjustments to my game to make sure my arm saddle attacks are more effective. Because if I just go for arm saddle, people are defending a lot better. So I've got to set certain traps and certain things to be able to get to that position. So Next year, I'm going to play a very similar game, but there's certain things that are going to change in my game that hopefully, especially for the IBJJF scene, is going to help a lot in terms of winning these big competitions, Euros, Pans, Worlds, things like that, as well as going and winning ADCC trials and hopefully potentially the Worlds as well.
Man, that's really interesting that he recognized it. I will say, like watching that match, it seemed like you're so fast at attacking that arm saddle, and he seemed equally fast at like ripping his arm out, preparing for you to go after his legs. It seemed like both of you were at the highest level of this kind of technical exchange.
Yeah,
Um,
like he definitely knew what I was going for because anytime I went even close to the arm, he immediately pulled it back. Most people don't react fast enough because how fast I snap on the submission or snap on the grip. But it makes sense that if he was studying me, he knew that that's what I was going to do. So he was obviously a lot more aware of it and just defended it earlier on.
yeah. So you pick up that big win, and then in the finals, not your first time in there against Roberto Jimenez. How did you feel against him this time? And then kind of what do you think you need to do differently to get that W?
Do you want me to be completely honest with you? So the issue is, right, Polaris is gone now, so I can say these things. When I was at Nogi Panams, I think last month, the month before, I popped my rib in the first match. So that affected me in terms of my inversion. So I can't invert and twist as much because my rib pops out of place. On top of that, we fought Saturday, right? So on the Wednesday leading up to it, like 4 days before, I popped my knee and I think I've torn my meniscus. So I popped it on Wednesday. The next day on a Thursday, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't walk. I just literally done rehab for 2 days, went to Polaris on Saturday. My physio came with me. I did about an hour warm up, just warming up my knee and warming up my ribs. Took 2 painkillers, and then I just went on and fought. And that's when I fought like Sanchez and Tarz and whatnot. So no excuses why I lost, but there are little factors that didn't work in my favor. Because that the biggest thing was their injuries. I pulled out originally, but they said they couldn't replace me. So I said, you know what? If you can't replace me, like I'm going to do it because obviously it's 20K on the line, and I don't want to ruin the show. So like, fuck it, I'm injured, but I'm just going to go for it, right? So I went for it. Did relatively well still. That's why my game was a bit more cagey, not as attacking. I felt like I was quite like not passive, but like not as attacking as I usually am because just injuries I couldn't do as much. But I think the biggest thing that affected my performance as well for the match against Roberto in the final was the break in between matches. So I had a 10-minute match with Sanchez. I had about a 20-minute break, and then I fought Tarza. That was fine. That's perfectly fine for me. But once I fought Tarza, I only had a 10-minute break before I had to fight Jimenez. And the Tarza match was like, the Sanchez match was tiring, but nowhere near as a Tarza match. Tarza match was really tiring. He was keeping up a better pace. And with the Roberto match, he had a 20-minute break between his last match to when he fought me, and I had a 10-minute break. So when I actually came back on the mats, I was still quite tired. So that didn't help me at all. No excuses. Like he beat me because his jiu-jitsu is better than mine right now. He won't be next year. But my tiredness did play a big factor, obviously, as well as the injuries. It's just that Roberto is a cardio machine, and he just does not stop moving. To go against a guy like that, I need to have my gas tank full. And that's why, if you notice, like the first 6-7 minutes, I did really well holding him. Like I did pretty good. And then towards the last like 2-3 minutes, that's when I started gassing out. Like I just can't handle the pace he's putting on me anymore because I'm just too tired. And then he passed me a couple of times, and eventually he got the arm triangle from Mount. So overall, I'm not too disappointed in my performance. I feel like I had some good points, but I am disappointed that I didn't win because I know I can beat these guys. Like I can beat Roberto. I know I can beat him. Like don't get me wrong, he's good. He's very, very, very good, obviously, right? But I know I can beat him. And next year, I really hope we have a rematch because I'm telling you, the result is going to be very, very different. I'm going to submit him next time we roll. That armbar was close. I'm telling you, that first minute I got him the armbar. When I had the armbar, I was like, yes, 20K, 20K. And then when he escaped, I was like, no. I almost cried. I was like, fuck. And then, yeah, that was the match.
Man, I would love to see you and Roberto in a 15-minute sub only match, just straight up without the tournament, because what you're saying, right? You came in a little tired, and he had different matches too. Like I would love to see you guys in 15 minutes just sub only.
It'll be very, very interesting. I am 100% down for the match. Like whenever it can be tomorrow, next week, or in 6 months, a year. I definitely think we are going to match again. Even if it ends a super fight straight away, I can work my way up. I'll beat all of the other guys that are in line to fight him, and then I'll fight him again. Like next year, I have a lot of big plans, and I'm going to do some big things hopefully next year. Like I'm very happy, not very happy. I'm relatively satisfied with my performance this year. I've got some big wins. I've also taken some shit losses at the same time, right? But That's part of the game. And I know where I've gone wrong. I know where I need to improve. And next year, I'm going to be a different beast. I promise you that.
I look forward to it. And then on that, you said you can face whoever. I think you were calling out or asking for a match with Ash Williams. Talk to me about that. Like, why, first of all, why do you want a match with Ash?
So my old coach is a guy called Ross Nichols, right? And Ross and Ash always kind of wanted to have a match. Well, Ross wanted a match with Ashley for ages, and Ashley kept rejecting it. And as over time went on, like Ash started winning everything and becoming like the man at 66. And I'm not much heavier than Ashley. I'm like when we walk around, I'm maybe 3-4 kilos heavier than him. So it's not actually that much weight, right? So obviously I wanted to get a match with him. The first excuse was I'm not a big enough name. I haven't done anything. I was like, okay, no problem. Give me a year and I'm going to come back. After that year, I started beating some big names. I was like, are you ready now? Like, I've got a bigger name now. Oh, no, you're too heavy. You're too big. I'm like, bro, like, you walk around like 73, 74. I walk around like 77, 78. There's not that big a difference. But he's like, oh, you're the weight class above me. You do 77. I do 66. I was like, yeah, because you cut like 8 kilos to compete. I cut like 2. I don't really cut weight. I eat less food for like 3 days. And then I'm on weight. Like, I don't even need to cut weight because I don't like to cut weight. I feel really shit. So I've been wanting that match for a while because 1, he's good. 2, he's meant to be one of the best guys in the country. And he is. He is one of the best guys in the country. And I want to show that I'm better than him. That's all it is. And I feel like, again, stylistically, I would wreck him. I don't think his style is built to beat me. Like, what's he going to do? Pass my guard? Not going to happen. He's not big enough. He ain't got enough gas tank to pass my guard. Only people that pass my guard have been Roberto and Mika. They're the only guys that pass my guard. No one else passes me, right? I'm bigger than him. So yeah, maybe I'm 3 or 4 kilos, but 3 or 4 kilos can make a difference, right? So I feel like physically, he's used to being the bigger man because he cuts so much weight to fight the smaller guys. With me, he's not going to have that physical advantage. So I don't think he'll pass my guard. I don't think he'll out cardio me. I don't think he'll be stronger than me. And I think certain skills that I'm very good at, he's very weak against. So I feel like I have an edge in pretty much every area of our match. And I think he knows this too. That's why he just won't accept the match. And I've been chasing him for probably 2-3 years now. Eventually, I think he will take it, but it'll be interesting to see if he does.
So other than that first time, has he responded otherwise to you kind of goading him?
He always responds, but he always. Sorry, someone's calling me.
That's okay.
Wait, one second. Sorry. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, sorry. So say it one more time because someone started calling me.
I guess what has been his response after, other than that first time? What is typically his response to you asking for a match?
Wait. That's all it is. Just wait. I'm just too heavy and too big for him. But man, realistically, like I walk around like 4 kilos heavier than you, maximum 5 kilos heavier than him walking around. I said to him, I'm cut to 75 to compete. No, it's too heavy. You have to be 70 kg. But then on Grapple Fest, he fought a guy at 73 kg. And then he comes to Polaris and fights at 80 kg. So the weight against the weight, the issue is with me is the weight. I'm too heavy to fight him. But yet, you're fighting guys that are bigger than me. And that's the reason you don't want to fight me. So I don't believe it's weight. I believe it's fear, personally. But yeah, that's what I think.
Would it be fair to say that if that match happens, it's to determine the best no-gi grappler from the UK right now? Best male UK grappler?
If I'm going to be completely honest with you, no.
Okay.
The reason being, I don't believe either of us are the best grappler in the UK right now. I believe we are both in the top 3, but neither of us number 1. I believe the number 1 grappler in the UK right now is Owen Flanagan. Okay. And I have trained with Owen since Purple Belt days, and he has always been an absolute tank. And only recently has he started to do well. Maybe that this year and maybe last year. He couldn't compete as well as his gym level, but he's finally bringing his gym level into competition. And I will admit that I do think Owen Flanagan is better than me at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was an oversight, right? He's somebody who had a great performance at ADCC, had that submission on John Blank. Really, really talented guy. And it's cool that you guys have trained together.
Loads. We was like, for like 2-3 years, we would train probably 3 times a week together.
Okay. I would love to see those. Love to see those leg lock battles.
Man, that's basically what it is. our roles consist of basically berimbolos and leg attacks. So it's like he will try leg attack me, I'll counter into a bolo. He will then counter into my legs, I'll counter into his legs, he'll counter into a bolo. And that's basically what it is. It's just leg attacks and back attacks, just constantly over and over and over again.
Awesome. Awesome. Modern jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
if we let's talk a little bit of technique. One thing I wanted to talk about is your, if we go back a little bit, your submission on Paul Craig. And part of the reason is I think it's still on your Instagram. When I watched the actual submission, it looks like a straight ankle lock grip. But his foot is more closer to an estima. But
Mhm.
you didn't have, like, if I remember correctly, the typical kind of estima lock grip where you put it against your chest.
It, it was a
Talk,
modified schema lock.
yeah, talk me through kind of the
So
mechanics of how you did that.
it started off, I went for Kani Basami. I missed the leg. So what I did was I got a straight foot lock on the foot instead, right? So as he pulled his foot out, I readjusted it onto the center of my chest. So I did the wrong side, I guess, because you're meant to use for their right foot, I'm supposed to use my right hand to go through to lock it up, but I used my left hand instead. So all it was just a modified steamer lock. It was the same submission, just a slight different grip. Instead of using my right hand, I used my left arm through. But yeah, essentially it was still as a steamer lock. I put the foot on my chest, I bent the foot, and then I started cranking it. It's good job he tapped when he did because it was starting to tear. So it was a good job he tapped when he did.
Yeah, it was a beautiful submission. And was your plan in that, because he's so big, just to like get him out of there as quickly as possible? Don't let him be on top
Yeah,
of you for very long.
yeah, like he's too big. He's big, he's strong, and he's heavy. So I didn't want to be in a 10-minute war with someone that's like so much bigger than me and stronger than me. It just made sense to get in there and finish him as fast as possible. The longer we match, the more he's going to tie me up just because of sheer size. And the less likely I am about to get his legs because of sweat. So it makes sense to get in there and finish him as fast as possible to not get tired and at the same time not get super sweaty. So his leg just slips out of my leg attacks.
Mhm. And then actually, let's go back a little bit. We're talking about Ash Williams. He had a similar match. He fought a bigger MMA guy on the same Polaris card that you just competed on. Did you see that match? And if so, what did you think of Ash's performance?
I didn't get to see much of the match because it was literally just before my final against Jimenez, I believe.
Mhm.
So at that time, I was still trying to catch my breath and just kind of like to just breathe, probably because I was still tired. I saw the finish, but I didn't get to see the whole match itself, so I can't really talk too much on that match.
It's fair. And then you mentioned you think you tore your meniscus. Like, what is, do you need surgery? What's the prognosis?
I think it's a very, very, very minor tear. I'm still able to train, but there is still a lot of pain. But I'm doing rehab. I'm doing serious rehab twice a week and minor rehab every day. So I'm doing what I can to improve it as fast as possible. But yeah, it's not that bad. But at the same time, it's a very, very annoying injury because there's a lot of things in my game that I can't do now because of my knee. But it's fine because it's just forced me to have to work on different aspects of my game that I needed to work on anyway, but I've just been a bit lazy because of just comfortability, I guess. So now it's kind of forcing me to work on things I actually have to improve at to make sure I win at this highest level. So it's been like almost a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Mhm. So then, assuming, you get back here in a few weeks or several weeks, you're back at 100%. What are your plans? What are your goals for 2023?
So I'm not going to compete for about 3 months.
Okay.
2, 3 months. I'm gonna just take off time to improve injuries. Like I've got, like I said, the rib, but I popped 3 different ribs this year. This year's been very, very bad for injuries. I've got a lot of injuries this year. So I've just competed through them. And it's not a smart idea, right? So I think the rest of this year, I'm just gonna rest. I'm just gonna work on rehabbing my injuries, improve them as fast as possible. Working on this new aspect of my game that needs at least 2 or 3 months for me to get to a good enough level to use in competition. And I believe I'm probably going to come back maybe March to compete again. So I'm probably going to rest until March. And in that time, just work on not getting rid of my injuries, but improve them as much as possible. At the same time, working on this new aspect of my game to, in the next 3, 4 months, get it to as high a level as possible so I can immediately bring it to competition and start using it to win.
Awesome. And then, other than Ash Williams, what are some of your dream matchups? Who would you like to face? Or obviously, you also said you want to get back a win against Roberto. What are some dream matchups that you have your eye on?
I'd like to run it back with Mika and Roberto for sure at some point. I would love another match for AJ Agazam just because he's such a prick. And I really want to beat him up again. I really enjoyed beating him up. In terms of just guys who I haven't matched that I think would be really fun, I'd love a match with Dante Leon. I think that'd be a really fun match. I think a match with JT Torres would be wicked as well. I'd love that match. I'd love a match with Gary Tonin. Who else? Lachlan Giles. I'd love a match with Lachlan. That would be a really fun match. Basically, I want to have a match with anyone at my weight class that's willing to come to kill me. That's what I want. I don't like matches where people stall or people run or people play that super slow counter game. Like, I want to go against people who are like-minded like me. They're coming in and we're coming in to finish. Like, when I compete against anyone, doesn't matter who I am, who I'm going against, my goal is not to win on points. My goal is not to win by decision. Like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? But at the same time, the end goal of that match is always to submit. So I want to go against someone, ideally, that's trying to do the same as me.
I think you'll get it. All those names you just named, Dante, Lachlan Giles, all those guys get after it. And I would love to see any of those matches personally.
Yeah, I think they'll be super exciting. I feel like the Dante match would be really fun. I think stylistically it'd be very interesting to see how that one goes, because there's certain things that he's good at that would work against me if he can time it right and catch me. But there's also certain things that I'm very, very good at that I know I can catch him with. So it'd be very, very interesting to see who's able to get that edge and who's able to get their move first. Like, if he manages to get his move first, he can potentially beat me. But I know if I get to the move that I know will work against him first, I'll finish him. So it all depends on who's able to assert their game first.
Yeah. And I think that's a very doable match. He competes at Grapple Fest constantly, and it's right around the corner for you.
You're able to compete on Grapple Fest. I'm not allowed to.
Oh, okay.
But yes, I'm signed with Polaris now.
Of course. Let's talk about that, actually. Tell me what that entails, because Polaris has been signing multiple athletes. What does that mean for you and your career?
Basically, all it means is that I'm guaranteed a certain amount of matches per year. Obviously paid matches, so that's pretty cool for me. Like, I'm guaranteed to get paid. Like, this is the thing about Grapple Fest as well. They didn't pay no one. They only pay like the top guys, Dante, K, Ty, these kind of guys. But then when I go on it, they wouldn't even pay my travel. Like, I didn't even ask to be paid to fight. I just asked, can you cover my travel, which is £50? No, they can't travel. They can't cover it. Well, if you can't cover my travel, I'm not going to compete on your show for free. It's not going to happen. So that's the reason why I kind of started boycotting Grapple Fest. And then Polaris, from the first match, when I won the Contender Series, as a purple belt, they paid me. They always pay my travel. They pay my accommodation fees. They pay me to fight. They pay for my food. So you really get treated like a professional. And I really appreciate that from Polaris, And so, yeah, with those guys, you get, with the signed contract, you get a certain amount of matches per year. And on top of that, they're going to help me with my marketing, help push my name forward, help elevate me in the sport, try to get my name out there as much as possible. So in terms of building my name up and getting big matches and actually getting paid to compete, it just made sense. And realistically, there's no other show in Europe, if not the world, that compares to Polaris at this stage. Like, I haven't competed any UK American shows, but I've competed against most shows in Europe and the UK. Nothing so far comes even close to the professionalism of Polaris.
Man, that's awesome. I look forward to seeing you compete. Do you know, are you able to divulge how many matches you'll get in a year?
I can't disclose because of it's a contract, but it's a few matches per year. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Awesome. I look forward to it. That was all I had for you today. Is there anything else you want to add, like sponsors you want to shout out, teammates, coaches, whatever? Now is your time.
Shout out to everyone at Elite Jiu-Jitsu for helping me improve every day and proving to everyone that I don't need to go and train at other academies to be one of the best in the world and compete against the best in the world. Because everyone keeps telling me, because I don't train with no black belts and I don't train with no brown belts, because I train with just my students who are basically just blues. I have one purple belt, one brown belt, and the rest are blues and whites. And I'm training with just my guys every single day. And I'm still able to come and compete at the highest level and beat some of the best guys in the world when everyone's saying I couldn't do it. So this is a big fuck you to those guys. And on top of that, shout out to my sponsors, Rose and Rehab, Total Massage, Tatami. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Jed, thanks again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you compete soon.
That's what I appreciate, man. Hopefully we'll do another one of these soon as well.
Absolutely.
That's what. See you soon, yeah?